Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, to beyond the veil, to mystical experiences, it downloads and information and things that we're working through in our own lives that we want to share with other people, and hopes that we shed some light on things and illuminate some of the path. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love these conversations. They help me to make sense of the world, especially when the world seems like it's making no sense at all. And so I love to have these conversations. And I love to lead people on their own journey of discovery into that great beyond, into the self underneath all the layers of crust and stuff that got put on top of the self. I love to help people guide back into that, clear signal. It's such a beautiful thing when we have a clear signal. And if you're interested in that, you can check out Butterfly Circle. Starts up 3 times a year on my website, carriehummingbird.com. That's Kerri, hummingbird.com. And today I'm really excited to be interviewing my friend Trey Downs, who is the host of the Your Superior Self podcast. I did an interview with Trey on his podcast and did a healing with him and everything. It was really cool. We shared some spirit space. And I'm excited to have Trey on the show today because I feel like Trey's perspective is really an interesting one. Is that perspective of, wow, I'm not even sure what's going on, but I want to find out more about it. I have this burning need to know more. I want to explore. I want to search. I want to feel like there's something more to this life. And so, Trey actually started his podcast exactly for that purpose, trying to figure out what is this thing about higher consciousness? What does this stuff mean? What do goals mean inside of all that? And what does real mean? What is real? What is real? And what is right now? What does all this stuff mean anyway? And so with this course of doing this podcast, you found out a whole lot of stuff. So let's have a conversation with Trey. And Trey, I want you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit more about you and why, where were you in your life when you started the podcast? What's the journey been like for you? I know it's been twisting and turning and evolving, and it's just because we've had conversations, it's just like, whoa, what's going on? So tell us more about how you got started, why you got started, and what you've been figuring out.
Sure. But I want to say thank you first, Carrie, for allowing me to come on your platform and talk to you and have a conversation. I really enjoy having conversations with you. I mean, I think we vibe very well, and I think we're very similar in some of our beliefs. But yeah, when I started the podcast, actually like 3 years ago, I want to say it was over Thanksgiving, and my brother-in-law and I are definitely competitive, and he is also in the space. He has a podcast, and we both started ours at the same time. It's kind of like a dare. It was like, you should be doing, I came up to him because he was already doing this. He was doing a lot of speaking and talking about self-betterment and how to, he does a lot of in the works, professional, administrative, I guess not administrative, but like management and that type of platform where he's a consultant and he helps companies better their supports. And he is very good at like giving speeches and going out and presenting himself. And I was like, why are you not doing this? Why don't you have a podcast? Like it just makes sense. Like I was a big podcast fan. And 3 years ago, I mean, podcasts were very up and coming still. I mean, they weren't as much. I don't know. I don't think the awareness is where it is today. There definitely were some big podcasts, obviously, like the Joe Rogan, and they were doing their thing. However, a lot of people still didn't. I guess they weren't aware that you could actually do it yourself. And so I dared him. I was like, I dare you to do it. Just do it. And he was like, well, I'll do it if you do it. And I was like, you know what? All right, we'll do it. So it was a race to the start, and I got mine up and running. I when I do something, like it's going to be full out. Like I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know how to do a podcast. So I like actually went and like YouTubed it and watched a lot of Pat Flynn videos, and started taking that route and trying to understand it a little bit more. I did the basics. I definitely went with a like Libsyn. I produced with Libsyn, and I've been with them ever since. But Yeah, it was more so, um, it was more so over there, and I was definitely in that self-betterment, like, starting stage where I was, like, learning more about it and challenging myself. I wasn't where I am today by any means. I was still kinda egotistical and, the ego was driving a lot of my choices, and I had no awareness of a higher power, higher consciousness. I was just kind of asleep to that. I wasn't even fully aware of my own consciousness. And through the podcast, one by one, every episode, it was very hard for me to produce one because I wasn't very good at editing at the very beginning. And of course I was very nervous about speaking with people. And I usually scripted a lot of my episodes out just because I, that's what the professionals said to do. They were like, you should definitely keep it between a 30 and 60 minutes show. You should have a script. You should be reading if you're not comfortable with free flow and freestyle type of interviews. And that's what I did for a long time until like I was like, you know what, screw this. Like I'm just gonna, see where it leads me. And it's like every episode has just changed me. Um, and it's like this podcast has allowed me to follow my curiosities, because it started out like with the business type, uh, uh, I don't know, like investigating a little bit more about what, I could do to better my 401k investments, things of that nature. And then like, I got tired with that and I moved on to, entrepreneur mindsets of, can I make this a brand? Can I make some money off of this? And that's what really pushed me for a long time. Trying to make this a big thing. And I lost focus of the real reason why I started it. And that was self-growth. And it kind of took me over a little bit. Like the ego was driving that train. And it got to a point where I was basically driving myself so hard that I was missing out on a lot of cool things like my family and special times with them. I mean, I was a big sports guy too. It's like I'm a big Orioles fan, Ravens fan, and I gave that up just to really concentrate and double down on the podcast. And I mean, I just was so focused on that I mean, my wife and I would have tons of fights, and the kids and I got disconnected a little bit where I would just focus on this. And it wasn't until we recently moved, we built a home. And um, it's just crazy how the universe works for you, because it starts showing you signs of what's really important. And it's not like this huge message, right? It's like um, it's like these little things that pop up and like try to catch your attention. Like I read The Alchemist, right? And I first read that book, I read it a couple times here and there. Like I was always caught up with the idea of going and leaving and finding that treasure, and the universe helping me get that. And it wasn't until recently where I kind of had this like awakening, this moment of realization of like, you dope, like the treasure. I don't know if you guys have read that book or not.
I've read that book. It's a
Yeah,
good book.
well,
For anybody out there who hasn't, it's a really good one to read.
yeah, absolutely. Well, how he finds the treasure at the very end, and it's actually where he started and his journey. And so, like, I kind of took that and took it as a message that the universe was trying to tell me, like, your treasure was always where you were. You just weren't paying attention to it. You were focusing on a lot of external stuff, and that's when I kind of took a step back and realized, like, damn, like, my treasure's been here with my family the entire time. Like my self growth starts here. And I was doing a lot of things that were kind of taking my attention away from that, and very, selfish goals, and the treasure that I was looking for doesn't exist. And so like, then I started, reading more about past life regressions and near death experiences. And it's crazy. It's just like things pop up. Like it wasn't like I was consciously going after these things. It's just like little signs would pop up, and it would make me curious. So I would go read something, and one book led to another guest, and so here I am talking to you. But yeah, the podcast has been like, I mean, it's been spiritual, it's been emotional, it's been, I mean, everything. It's been all of those every type of awakening that you can have. I've had it that involved a guest, or for me personally, involving the podcast. Like, it's just, I can't picture myself not doing it. It's not like an attachment. It's just like this development. It's like this I don't know where it's going to take me next. Like, I don't know, like 5 years from now, man, like I look back where I started 3 years ago and what my belief system was, and I look about where it is now, and I'm excited. I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, excited. Well, that, isn't that how it works though? Like, here's what I love about being a messenger, because I would classify you as a messenger. You got a podcast, you were driven to it through whatever reason. You kept doing it. You felt like this is important. And the thing I love about being a messenger is that you get to vulnerably be the example for others.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to spark some curiosity. Like I would say, like assume, like a lot of people that have known me in the past wouldn't necessarily think, that I would be talking about some of the things I talk about, like near-death experiences and past life regressions and Edgar Casey and things like that, and involving myself with those types of beliefs. But I mean, like, if I can bring people together and listen to my episode and some of my guests, and like our episode was really fantastic, and like spark some curiosities for them, and now they're curious about what else is out there, and they come to your website and they see you and they learn more about what you're about, and it helps them develop them. Like that's what it's about for me, right? Like that's try to spark a curiosity inside of them that they would never have thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the curiosity, as soon as I started opening to that, because I don't know, Trey, like I had 20 years in a relationship where it felt like there was one right way, and it felt closed. Like it felt really constrained and really brittle and really like it was like this suit I had to be in, like, and I'm not very good at staying in those tight places. Um, when the curiosity opened for me, that's when things really took off in my life. Like the curiosity became the thing that just opened every door. Like so much magic has come into my life. It's the curiosity. And I see in the world right now, there's a lot of entrenchment in position. There's a lot of ideology and entrenchment in ideologies clashing instead of curiosity, which I think opens so many doors.
Yeah, it's
How
like
about that?
it's so polarizing. It's like, people's belief system has to be the right way. It's like that's my belief system is better than yours, and it's, you're going to hell if you don't believe in what I believe in. And it's like it's just not how it's supposed to be. Like I don't know. The more that I learn about, past life regressions and reincarnation, like we're all here to learn and develop ourselves as a spiritual being. And I'm Catholic, and I'm learning more to be open-minded. Like at first, like I I, I was like, oh, like I was reading Edgar Casey, and I was like, this isn't really like. I mean, he was a Christian, hardcore Christian, and he would read the Bible every year of his life, and he had these. He was the, I don't know, I guess the father of holistic medicine, and he started, falling. You read Edgar Cayce, yeah, right? Like you read
I
him,
have
right?
actually, I have not, but I want to now that you're
So
talking
he'll
about it.
So yeah, he's like from like Kentucky or someplace down south, and it's obviously back in, I guess, like the 20s or something like that. So it's like a very
Yeah, it's the turn of
different
the
time.
century. Yeah.
Yeah, and he would like fall asleep in this meditate. I don't know if it's meditation or like this hypnotic state, and he would diagnose patients like, if you had some type of ailment, he would like cure you. Not of that ailment, but he would like, see your body. Like he would basically push like your energy up to the guides, I guess, almost, and be able to tell you what's wrong with your body, or not tell you what's wrong with it, but kind of fix it. Like a lot of the time it was diet or exercise or something like that. But back then that was like, they looked at him like this guy's like a witch or something like that. But he was very, very Christian, very religious. And like I said, and throughout his life, it talks about his life, how it started turning from holistic health to like philosophy. And he started talking about reincarnation and taught reincarnation. There's actually an Edgar Casey Association that's in like Norfolk, and then
Hmm.
there's Atlantic University, which is associated with that. And I love reading books about his story, and how many he did 14,000 readings for people. I mean, that's incredible. And this guy was like into the entire time, like going back and forth whether or not this is what he was supposed to be doing, whether was it right for him to do it. Like, he was battling that because he had this religious belief and he had this gift, and he's like, he doesn't, is this something that the devil gave me, or is this something that God gave me? And he struggled with that in his entire life. And
Mm.
it definitely he definitely helped a lot of people. And he's actually, I think, the most documented, I don't know if you want to call him a psychic or some type of whatever his readings are. But I mean, if you read his readings, I mean, they're all numbered, and he talks about like the lost city of Atlantis, and I mean, it's nuts. But I mean, I'm into that stuff now. Like, I'd like to keep an open mind. I don't want to think that I have it all figured out, because that would suck, right? Um, but I mean, reading things like that and connecting with people like you that have these gifts, and like, it just raises my energy, and I love it.
Well, I guess that's really the question, right? This is like the litmus test. Does it expand you and open you, or does it contract you and close you?
Hmm.
And to me, emotions like love and peace and joy are all expansive, opening emotions. Like, there is an experience of opening and expansion and peace. It's like really big. And anger and resentment and judgment are tight and
Hmm.
like really closed in. So, to me, it's like I navigate through body experience. Like, how do I know if something's good for me? Well, does it expand me?
Sure.
Or does it contract me and make me defensive? And, where am I in that spectrum?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people are kind of scared of that, because you have like people that, like, you don't know what their intentions are. Like, you just don't know sometimes. Like, you go, and that's why you research stuff, right? Like, you find out about a new medium or a new type of way of uh, healing, right? Like, you got to at least do your research and figure out what they're trying to accomplish. I didn't know anything about light healing or anything like that. But I went and did my due diligence and read up on what you did. And, our session was phenomenal. Like, I loved it. I mean, it was definitely outside of my comfort zone, but I did it. I kept an open mind to it. And it's helped me, release um, a lot of that, trauma, a lot of that bad energy, and it's definitely freed me up to grow as a spirit, as a consciousness, as energy. And I mean, that's what you got to do. You just got to find new ways. I don't believe in having one particular method. And I don't believe that you can standardize that, right? Like, I think, like, some of the religions out there, like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. I just don't believe in that. I think everyone's different. I think curiosity and following that, I think that's what's going to help heal a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that it's it feels to me that there's a lot of fear. So even as you said that, I was like, wow, I was assessing that because I feel the same way. I feel like, oh yeah, you've got to really assess things and make sure you understand people's intentions and what doorways are they opening, all that kind of stuff. And I totally, feel that way. And then part of me is like also saying, well, Carrie, like on the other side of all the fear is usually if you move through the fear and move through that space to something that opens you, you'll go, oh wow, that was for me. That was like a threshold, or that was like you moved through your discomfort of like, oh, I'm not really sure what Carrie Hummingbird is going to do with me in a session. But then on the other side of it, it felt really great. You're like, oh, I navigated myself in a new way, which was helpful, because that's
Mhm.
really what you were doing. You're just navigating yourself in a different way. Now I was just showing you a method to do it. So it's interesting to me because I now question fear. Like, I now question all fear. I
Mhm.
question if there's anything I actually do need to be afraid of. Like, if I'm a being of light and I'm expansive and I'm peace and I'm love and I'm all of these things, do I, as that presence, the I am presence, as I love you also interviewed Paul Selig, as the I am, do I need to be afraid of anything? I don't think so. Like, I think that's a different aspect of myself. I think that's the human, temporary, egoic part of myself that gets involved in that matrix of fear.
Yeah, I think fear, obviously, it's chemicals releasing in our brain that has kept us alive for ever since we evolved. But That's what it is. It's just a chemical. It's just that, cortisol flowing through your body, that chemical saying, your brain's trying to keep you alive. But really, what is the fear? I mean, God has put us here to experience everything. I mean, everything that has happened to you has been for a reason, for your development. So it's like, what do you fear? I mean, even if, like you say, you do something, like even if you screw up, like even if you make a bad choice and you go into a relationship or a bad relationship, or you make a bad choice and you follow someone, or and it doesn't work out the way that it's supposed to be, and let's say you're emotionally hurt or financially stricken or anything like that, but it's all like development for you. It's all trying to make you stronger in the end, and you have to realize that. So what are you really in fear of? Are you in fear of that lesson? Are you in fear of getting stronger? Probably because you don't know the outcome. And that's, to me, I mean, that's just all about, evolving. That's all about self-development. Is, you don't know. If we all knew what the end of the book was, would we ever read it? It's just like, you make the best decision that you can. You do your due diligence and try to research whatever you're trying to if whatever you're curious to, and then you go do it. And then what, if you like it, you like it, and that's great, and you've grown in one direction. And if you don't like it, and you probably learned a lesson and what not to do next time. But fear is just that. It's just a chemical that's released in your brain because your brain's trying to keep you alive. And that, it took me a long time to understand. Like when I feel that anxiety, and that like anxiety is depression. It's the same thing. It's just that cortisol that releases in your brain. Um, when I realized that fear is just a chemical reaction in my brain, like it gave me that confidence to, like, really try different things, put myself out there, be uncomfortable, be in new situations, like I'm very socially awkward at times. Like I don't like, I'll go to these conferences and stuff, and they'll have like some headliner like speakers there, like Seth Godin and JJ Virgin, and Paul Selig was at one. And uh, you know, people there I don't necessarily identify with. It's just these corporate types that are like, badass business people, and like I just don't see myself like that. But I went to be just in that area and around some of the speakers and just see how they present themselves. And um, just because, I mean, their message is so powerful, but like the fear of interacting with people like that I don't know, and like it's like forcing myself, and I just feel anxiety. I'm just like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Just speaking loudly, and like uh not being able to control my voice level, like. But it's just, it's just fear. It's like that chemical reaction that's trying to save you, that it just is real as you
Well,
realize
it's
it
a
is.
real thing, though. I actually stood next to JJ Virgin. I stood like this close to JJ Virgin. She's like really tall, right? She's
Yeah, yeah.
super tall and she's really built. And she's like really tall. And I stood this close to her and I felt that same thing. I was like, wow, her energy field is like it's like so powerful. It's like repelling you almost, like, whoa,
It's like,
she's powerful.
Hey, JJ. I don't know why I just said that.
I,
I'm sorry.
uh,
Like,
I was just trying to, I
you
just
have
lost
beautiful arms. Oh,
all
I'm
my
sorry. I don't
words.
know why I said that. How much can you bench? I mean, sorry. Um,
It's so
uh,
true.
but yeah, I mean, but they've been there for, they've done this so
She's
many
just
times. They
she's
just
just
have
got a
this.
really strong container. She
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
herself and she's all
yeah,
jaguar. She's like, meow, so
yeah. Well, I went up and talked to her one time. I was like, "Hey, JJ, you've been on my show," and she's just totally didn't remember me. And I was like, "I'll just walk over away." Like, it's just,
she's like, you're
it,
just another show. I just I
yeah.
don't
She's
know
like,
who
"What?
you
What
are.
show was that?" I was like, Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna stage left. I'm gonna go ahead and just walk out.
With my humble self.
Yeah.
I gotta go eat my humble pie over here.
But I mean, it's that anxiety that everyone feels it. It's just you got to realize it's just, it's just your
Well,
body.
Trey, I love this. One of my things my teacher taught me, one of my teachers is I don't think I have the book here. One of my teachers is Jose Stevens. Jose's the Power Path, and I love Jose because he's so humble. He's just so humble. It's just so even keeled. I love that because I'm not. Like I try to be even keeled, but it's an effort. But he is just he did this book called this Transforming Your Dragons, and he talks about the egoic cooks as if they're dragons. So they just imagine that they're dragons. And there's like 7 different dragons. One of them, which surprised me, is self-deprecation.
Oh,
and martyrdom. They're both dragons. So I always thought the ego was like arrogant and domineering and like, putting itself out there. Like I thought that was the ego. Like that was the way to tell if you had ego. Because if you
Mhm.
were being arrogant or greedy or, you know, forcing other people against their will, or you were doing, then that was the ego. But then I found out, oh, actually, that is ego. And also, is ego is self-deprecating yourself,
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm not as good as you are,
Yep.
or martyring yourself. So it's really sneaky how it presents itself out
Oh
there in
no,
the
I
world.
do. It happens to me all the time. Like that
And you feel so
son of a
awkward,
bitch
that
dragon.
awkward
Like,
feeling.
yeah, yeah, that bastard. He's old. I mean, they're all. I mean, I have a seven-headed dragon for sure. That is
I
just
think we
always
all do.
following me and telling me that hey, you're not good enough, dude. Like, you're not. You're. Why are you even trying to be like
Why
this?
are you even hanging out with JJ Virgin?
Why are you even trying to talk to her? Like, look at her arms. She can curl a car. Like, seriously. Why are you trying to hang out with Paul Selig? I mean, he channels to the guides, and he is all that is wisdom. Like, why are you even trying to hang out? Like,
I gotta tell you, I have such awkwardness around the Paul Selig conversation because I know he can read people, and that's so awkward for me because I'm like, oh man, he's gonna see things about me that I don't even know about me, and I'm not sure I want anybody to see things about me that I don't know about me. So,
well, you want to talk about weird? So I actually had a face reader on the show, and he can, like, I mean, he is so freaking good. Like, he can just read your face and know exactly what's going on. He can see your ailments. Like, I mean, like, he knows what's going on in your body just from some of the expressions on your face, or some of the whatever he's reading on your face. But like, he could, I mean, he basically go back. Everyone go back and listen to that episode. It's I think it's Eric something. I think his name is. I'm losing my memory on that one, but he was able to basically tell my story just from my face, and that was awkward because it's like, man, what else is there that he's not telling me about? You know?
yeah, what does he know about me that he's not saying? So I want to assure you, Trey, like, here, I understand how awkward that feels. So when I do healings, as you notice, I like to give people a chance to see it for themselves, right? And so I just hold space there, and I say, you tell me what you want to tell me about what you're seeing. I can see some of it, but then, like, when I bring your guides in, I'm like, you just have a conversation. I don't eavesdrop. Like, I stay out
Mm-hmm.
of it because I just feel like people deserve some privacy. Like, we're heading into a time and a space, I believe, where we're going to have way more transparency. People's psychic gifts are going to open up. People are going to know stuff about other people. It is going to be more obvious, and we just need a little dignity in this process. Like just a little
Mm-hmm.
dignity and a little privacy as we
Well,
go through our
you
egoic
just got
stuff.
to be, yeah, you just got to be kind of vulnerable, right? Like, you just got to kind of, like, that's how I look at it now. It's like, you know what? Like, we're all connected anyway. The more that I learn, the more that I grow and develop as a spirit, as an energy. Like, we're all connected anyway. Like, consciousness is all, right? Like, I mean, everything is consciousness, so we're all connected. And I don't know, just the more that I go down this rabbit hole that is spiritual development, uh, I just, the more love that I feel for other people, and, like, they can see my the shadow that I have, the area that I don't want to observe, the unconscious that I don't know about, but it's all in love, right? Like, I mean, I was talking to my wife last night about it. I was like, because she's very traditional Catholic, and some of our conversations make her feel uncomfortable. But I was like, last night, I was like, Jesus, before he died, what did he say? He said, "Forgive them, for they not know they forgive them, for they not know what they do or who they are." And I mean, essentially, because they weren't attuned to who they were, they weren't attuned to what he was, and um,
Because they
and I
had
was,
fear. They had
yeah,
fear over what he was suggesting to everybody is you'll do what I've done, you'll do that and more. You're capable. He was suggesting to everybody, hey, you're divine beings. You're
mhm.
divine beings and
But
you're
you talk about
capable of
fear, though,
more.
that people can't understand. Like, people don't want to like, think that they're divine. Like, when you hear divine, and when you hear, like, Paul Selig say the Christ, it makes people uncomfortable. But that's what it is, right? Like, the Christ in us is that soul, that being, that energy. Like, and people just don't feel comfortable discussing that. I don't know. Like,
I think people feel unworthy of being that. I think that's
mm,
really the crux of it, right? Is like that self-deprecation, not like, well, okay, so let's explore it. Why, Trey? Because if you actually are a divine being, it's consciously co-creating this experience, then don't you have some responsibility for it?
yeah, no, but
You know, like you
yeah,
can't just go to church and pray and be like, somebody else take it away. Like,
yeah. But
no,
I mean,
you
people
have to
are,
be responsible for
yeah,
it.
you definitely have to be responsible for that. And that's, we're made in his image, right? Like, God created us in his image. And you take that literally, like he definitely did. And people don't feel comfortable doing that. They're like, oh, they just, we're just people here, and we're a bunch of sheep, and, they hurt, whatever, however you want to look at us. But for me, I mean, I've definitely lived on this earth multiple times. I've definitely learned a lot of lessons in this life, and I hope to learn more. And, that is conquering fear. That is becoming more aware and helping others become more aware and waking up, right? Like, I didn't realize I was asleep until a lot of this shit happened with me, as far as, with the podcast, and just doubling down, and taking things for granted. And I had to have that awakening. The universe, I shake my fist in the sky sometimes saying, why did you make me
Why
go
did
through
you
that?
open this door?
Yeah.
Because now there's no going back.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, exactly. Like, once there's no going back. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, how many times I wish, I'm like, why can't I just go back to
I've
sleep
got
and
the
just,
blue pill.
yeah.
Just take the blue pill. Put me back in. I want to eat my steak.
But it's so true, though. It's like so true. It's like,
But the steak is fake. It's a
I
fake
know.
steak. That's
I
it.
know.
That's the thing. It's so, there, once you go down this road, Trey, as you know, there's no going back, because now you're so much more aware. Everything you become aware of, you can't not see it. You've
It's,
seen it
and
now. You
yeah,
can't
I've seen the
unsee it.
Wizard. I've seen the Wizard of Oz, and, you know, that once you see the Wizard of Oz, there's no going back.
There's no going back. So can we forgive ourselves for being the whole thing, for being these divine creatures who chose to make ourselves these little things that think they're helpless? I mean, we're learning about ourselves through this experience, and there's a humility. It's like I think the feeling of humility is when the sacred happens. Like when, for example, like in our session, when we had the sacred happen, that sacred feeling, the expanse of the unknown, like the profound perfume of it is so amazing. You can't even put words to it. But there it is. And we get to glimpse those moments of sacred. But the only way we can glimpse that perfume, or that realize that, is if we didn't have it and then suddenly we had it. Right?
Mm-hmm. It's like
Because
that remembering. It's that remembering who you are. That, I can never say it, so you guys can laugh if you want. What is it? Bhagavad Gita? Is that how you say it? The Gita. Anyway,
the Gita.
the Gita. That's what I say. I can never say the B word, and my wife makes fun of me all the time about it. However, just like this, right? Like Krishna, if that's how you say his name,
Krishna.
uh,
Yeah.
Krishna and Arjuna. So if you guys know the story in that, like, um, Arjuna remembers who he is, right? And Arjuna is the one. Like, he's the, see, this is, I get confused. I haven't read this in a minute, and it's
You're basically cramming all of this spiritual wisdom down your brain, and it's there. It's all in there. It's all in there.
yeah, it's
And
all in here. It's all in here.
this is the
But
thing I love, is we just fill our cup with all of this, and then our spirit accesses it. Like your spirit just said, hey, there's something really relevant in this story, and you went, yeah, I know, what was that? And now you're just working out your retrieval mechanism.
it's not that good anymore, as I get older. All right, so Arjuna is the one. He is the warrior, right? He is the guy that forgets who he is, and at the very end of the story, it is God who helps him remember, and it's like that awakening, that remembrance of how powerful you are, and to to accept that. It's hard for people because, you know, a lot of people don't ever wake up. A lot of people go through life still asleep, you know, running off of their egos, letting their brains dictate to them what they're going to do, instead of really remembering who they are, and having that awakening. And I think that's, you know, it just, we keep coming back, and we keep coming back. We keep coming back. The gift is the now. Carrie, right now is the gift that God wants to give us. It's not the car, it's not the house, it's the moment. That's why we keep coming back to this earth and being humans, right? Like, it's to feel the sadness, the hurt, the fear. We want to, as a spiritual being, we want to feel that. That's why we keep coming back, to feel the love for someone else. And the moment is where you experience all of that. So when, like, we meditate, it's always to bring us back to the moment, because that's where the gift is that God gives us, is the moment. That's where you experience all these gifts of emotion, that you don't get otherwise. Because when you leave here, it's, you know, I don't remember what it feels like, but I know that I've lived multiple times on this earth as a different person, and each time it's to awaken. And right now, I mean, I've awakened. I'm just trying to figure the rest out. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Well, I think, you know, we wake up to new realizations constantly. You know, once you start awakening, you keep awakening. It's not
Mm,
like a one and done. It's like it keeps awakening and then more awakening and then more realizations and then more awakening, and then there's an integration of that. And, you know, I think that you're right. It comes down to humility, and it comes down to being in the moment. There's certainly a lot of in the awakening process, it's seductive at first. It's very seductive to get you, you know, on the path and get you opening up to all these teachings.
mhm,
And then after a while, it, there's like the need to embody and to be present in the now, which is a very simple um, tool for being with the divine. But it's so hard to get there when the brain is really busy. So that's why there's like this journey of like fascination, 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 and then it's got to get into the embodiment space, and then you can be present with what is.
mm,
And being present with all that is our ultimate goal, to be present with the whole experience without pushing it away and retreating from it or distracting from it, or but to be present with the whole thing happening.
mhm. Yeah,
It's so
no,
hard to
I
do.
agree. I agree 100%. No, it's definitely hard to do. You're like you're sitting here trying to meditate. Next thing you know, you're like squirrel. Like, I mean, it's just you're
Or
you're
uncomfortable feeling or
yeah.
uncomfortable realization or something. Ooh.
Or you're thinking about the future. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to get that done. Or you're thinking about the past. Oh, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? And then
And the
it's like,
brain does it automatically. The brain, you know, when you're sleeping, your brain's still working, you know, I realized.
oh yeah,
So I
absolutely. It's
find
the
myself,
unconscious.
it's
It's
constantly
yeah.
telling stories and shit.
Yeah, it's just different, you know, your unconsciousness. You should look, I think, I can't remember the number, but it's like the amount of energy or whatever you're burning when you're in your unconscious state is like so much more than your conscious state. It's nuts. But when you go to sleep, it's all like, you're in beta, and then alpha, theta, and then that's where you experience REM sleep and gamma, and that's just different states of the mind, and you're still thinking, you're still there, but it's just, it's just a restriction. It's the resistance. When right now we're in beta, we're conscious, we're thinking, um, and it's, some of the thoughts and ideas are very hard to come by because we're in beta. But once you like start running and you start, releasing different chemicals in your brain, the restrictions get a little easier. That's why if you ever read Stephen Kotler, he talks about flow states, and he talks about how to get into flow. And you do that by getting into the alpha and the theta range. The theta between I think it's like the line between alpha and theta is where flow happens, and that's where a lot of your aha moments happen, because that restriction, that resistance that your brain gives you on your thoughts, like ideas just seem to flow. Like the prefrontal cortex shuts down, the sense of self shuts down, and you're able to flow with these different ideas. And that's one of the reasons why I like to run. I got to run like at least 2 to 4 miles a day, or every other day, excuse me, um, to get into this flow state so I can have like the creativity to, put an episode together or have a conversation. Like I ran today because I knew I was coming on your show and I wanted to be very creative and have a fun and very passionate conversation with you, or else I'll just be, if I don't do those things, I'll just, I'll be in this, this sense of this state of like trying too hard and like,
The
my
ego,
mind, yeah,
yeah.
the ego will be kicking my ass. So I got to do things to kick his ass.
You open him up, relax him. I used to run a lot too, Trey. It's funny you mentioned that because I ran a lot of marathons and half marathons. I think I've got like 15 medals down there in my closet.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
because
have
I love to run.
one. I have one, but I do it for life. I don't, a lot of people ask me, what are you training for? I'm like, life, the ego. Let's see.
Dismantling my ego and getting back to the sunshine.
And then they look at me like I'm crazy and they just, all right. Well, I'm sorry I asked, but, yeah, no, I think
That's a
you have,
doorway. That's a
uh,
trance. What basically you're talking about is like getting yourself into trance. And if you run 4 to 6 miles or however much you need to run, I used to have to run 6 to 8 just to get in the trance space because my brain is super active. So I would run that to get into that space and then I would get zoned out. But ever since
mhm,
I started doing the energy medicine healing, like the stuff, you and I experienced, that has loosened it up now to the place where I channel, like I regularly channel, and I
mhm,
can get myself into this flow state where it feels very, and I'm in one right now where I can feel very disoriented, like things are moving and shifting all around me and I want to
mhm.
control it, but I'm just going to let it be. And it feels like you're on a spinny ride sometimes.
Yep,
Like,
flowy. Yeah, like right, we can experience group flow too. Like Stephen Collar talks about that. I did an episode with Dr. Sue Jackson, and she's a flow psychiatrist, or she specializes in sport flow, and she talks a lot about that. Like I'm very interested in it because it's like like you said, my brain goes 100 miles a minute, and it's like how do I do things that shut that down a little bit so I can focus on the creativity and being my, so I can hear God. Like I'll meditate and do certain things so I can different levels of consciousness so I can raise my consciousness, and flows are great is a great way to do that. I know running is one way for me. Meditation, I'm getting better at meditation.
yoga
I
is another good one.
Yeah, yoga is great. Stretching as well. Stretching,
Stretching, getting all those
yes.
tight spots out. It is like creating flow in your body too. Like the
Hmm.
idea of creating flow in your body, like stuck muscles and stuck tight places, they just need breath. They need air, which is the practice of yoga, is to put all that breath in all of those stuck places inside of your body. It's like your whole being could be in flow and it's an ongoing process. It's not a one and done. It's like you got to keep working at those little tight spots, those
Yeah,
prickly areas.
yeah, yeah. He also talks about like if you ever skateboarded or skied or you've been on like a downhill extreme bike ride, like when you feel like everything you can't miss, right? Like those are extreme ideas of flow, and that's what he talks about. Is one of my favorite books that he wrote was The Rise of Superman. And he talks about that. He talks a lot about how extreme skateboarders and skiers experience flow all the time, and how some of the records that they have grown exponentially over the years because of flow and being able to harness that in these, because basically they're on the side of a mountain and they're skiing. I mean, literally, if you go one way too far and you're falling off a cliff, so your mind is automatically pulling you into flow where you're basically Superman. And he talks about that, and it's very interesting to me because it's like different levels of flow. Like there's a scale, and when I'm running on a very low scale of that, but if I'm skiing on the side of a mountain, obviously it's going to be something so much better. But I
Well, it's
don't
kind of
want to
when you
do that. I
realize
don't want to ski on a mountain. I want to run. I want to do other things that are safer that I can experience flow.
safer. Well, I was going to say, because it's kind of like you have to, at a certain levels of flow, like you're talking about, like the skiing thing, you've got to surrender to the flow in order to survive.
Because I mean, yeah, because you're gonna die.
Because you'll die if you don't surrender to the bigger flow that knows exactly where your skis need to go. If you start thinking about it in the middle of that, you're out.
Yeah, that's where that he talks about the prefrontal cortex, where the self resides, like the self, and that just fades away, and that's when you don't you. That's where you feel that's where you feel the most productive. Like he'll try to get in flow too. Like he'll go skiing a lot. When he's writing a book, it's incredible. Like, one book is basically 10 years of his life with all the research and the editing he has to do. But like when he's like stuck, when he's up against a deadline, like he talks about how he makes himself smaller, and what he means by that is he'll only do two things. He'll ski and write. That's it. He'll go to a cabin and he'll ski all day, get in flow, come back, write, ski, get in flow, come back. And that's because of the resistance of the brain, changing your brain waves of electricity in your brain to go from beta to theta, or beta, is it beta to alpha to theta to gamma? But, flow is a great way to raise your consciousness as well. And I mean, I don't mean to hijack your show right now. I'm just,
I'm
I'm just so
interviewing
used,
you.
I'm just so used to my show. It's like, um, we're talking about flow, Stephen, all my things that I'm interested in,
Yeah,
and
well,
I'm like
that's what we're
hijacking your
supposed to
show.
do on right now. That's what we're doing. We're
I'm like,
talking
shut
about
up, Trey.
you.
Just shut up, Trey.
You actually have permission. This is all about you. It's about your
Like
stuff.
hijack. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You
Yeah,
know why you apologize? This is that self-deprecation dragon right there.
I know. I
Yeah.
told you.
It's so fun. Well, so, this is the cool stuff. So this is why I loved our conversation, because, you're so curious. I think the thing we share that it just opens my heart so much is the curiosity. It's like the
Mhm.
willingness to say, there's more I could know, experience, and be, and I want to find it. Like I want to discover it within me. I want to be inspired to it. I want to open the door within me to it. I want to go on that journey. I want to feel it all. And and I accept that some of it's going to feel icky or awkward or weird, or I'm going to have these edgy moments, and that's okay. It's just part of the whole process of getting into that flow. I love that you're talking about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm reading a book right now. It's it surprised me because it wasn't what I thought it would be. It's The Power of Flow, and it's practical ways to transform your life with meaningful coincidence. And I thought it was about flow, like Stephen Kotler flow, but it's not. It's about like synchronicities, right? Like things in the universe that show you. And I'm like, it fooled the shit out of me. Like I'm sitting here reading, I'm like, this is nothing about flow, because it
It
does
is
talk,
flow.
but it talks about flow as far as I thought it was going to be like flow as far as like Mikai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who just he's the grandfather of flow. I thought it was going to be like in terms of him, but not in the way that like synchronicities and the universe is speaking to you in flow. And that's what I'm starting to learn about now, that is flow. I didn't believe that it was at first until I started reading this book. And then it's crazy how you don't really realize the synchronicities that are happening in your life until you start reading about it. And now, like, I keep a little sheet of paper and I try to carry it around me everywhere I go because I'm seeing it pop up. It's pretty crazy. So just a quick story about that. So I'm reading a book that I would never have ever picked out for myself. I can't remember the title. I can't remember the author, but it's a very hard read. It's talking about thermodynamic or something, energy. And I'm like, forcing myself to read this. It's forcing myself. I get halfway through the book and he talks about consciousness. And in the sentence, he uses the phrase self superior. Now, I've never heard those two words used before in that sentence. And my show just happens to be Your Superior Self. I stopped reading immediately, highlighted that entire sentence, and went and showed my wife. My wife looks at me, she says, "What?" I'm like, "You don't see this, obviously the universe is trying to tell me something here, and I'm trying to show you." And she's like, "She could care less," but I'm just joking around. She does care, but but these synchronicities only mean something to you. The universe is talking to you. So like, I didn't realize that for a long time. Like, I mean, things, and now I'm starting to notice them more. Like whenever I was having a conversation with a friend and I was telling her, um, how I was just becoming overcome with like some negativity about the show, and like, I didn't know where it was supposed to go. Like, am I doing the right thing? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, we had a discussion about past life regressions and like how I'm getting to that. And she's like, sent me a book. It's called Endurance. And it's about a leader who one of the greatest adventure stories ever told. But the title's Endurance, and the ship, that the main ship in the story is called Endurance. And if that's not like a sign from the universe, I don't know what is. Endurance, like you got to just endure and just continue and keep fighting.
Yeah, endurance. Powerful stuff, powerful stuff. And it's kind of the process of, I would like to just say that as an artist creating pieces of art, there's a point in the process of creating a piece of art where you really just don't like that piece of art. Like you just
Mhm.
look at it and you go, this is a piece of crap. And I don't even want to work on this art anymore. But if you keep working through it, you'll get to past that resistance, which is actually calling you forth to something even more beautiful that's going to be expressed in that piece of art. You just don't realize it in that moment of angst that this is actually an edge and it's pushing you towards something more, even more profound, even more beautiful of an expression through that canvas. Then I realized all of life is a piece of art, the
Mm.
whole thing. So your podcast is a piece of art. It's an ongoing piece of art that you're working on, which is helping you work on the bigger piece of art, which is you.
Mm.
So there are those moments of ick. There's those moments of, ugh,
Yep.
this is disintegrating, this is falling apart. And we're in a collective moment like that right now, where everything's falling apart that we thought we were building together, or that we liked, or we thought was stable and we wanted it. And it's all collapsing around our ankles. And we
Yeah.
have this opportunity now to go, okay, let's push through this. Let's create something even more beautiful.
Oh, I love that. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, every show, like the guests, you're amazing. That self defeating dragon is like kicking my ass after every episode, saying, I had a tendency of doing that, like saying you didn't do well enough. And then now I got to the point where, I'm doing what I can, and it is what it is. It is, the show is, how do I say this? It is what it has to be for people. And I look at it as, you're not going to hit a home run every time. Like you're going to get up and hit, for those baseball fanatics like myself, you get up there and you hit a single, 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 double, 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 maybe another single, you might strike out, you might walk, whatever, but every now and then you'll hit a home run. And that's what I live for. And conversations like these, where you can connect with people and hijack their podcasts and talk about whatever you want to
This has been a home run in my book. I'll tell you that. This has been great.
get.
So I so enjoyed our, see how circuitous and beautiful that was. I mean, it was really, we had no idea what we were going to talk about, but like on the other side of that conversation, I actually feel like we should go back and watch it, because it actually was really profound what we just talked about and came full circle on. Is
Yeah,
pretty amazing to me.
yeah, I love it, Carrie. I'm so excited that I was able to get the invite and come on the show.
Me too. Beautiful. Well, if you guys want to know more about Trey, you can go to his podcast, Your Superior Self. And is there anything else you want to share with people about how to interact with you, or?
Sure. Yeah. Just send me a message. Go to yoursuperiorself.com. Check it out. I've been messing around with the website, just having some fun with it, being creative and curious. And so send me a message what you thought about today, and tell me some secrets about Carrie.
I tell them all in my books. So
Yeah, or you can hit me up on social media, Instagram at tdowns80 and Twitter at downstrey.
beautiful. Well, so you guys heard it from him. Check him out. And of course, here's the part of the show when I say, hey, if you want to, give some more people the opportunity to share the magic that just got created here, then share this out. Like, comment at iTunes. It's just the best way. Like, share, comment, YouTube, wherever you found it, and just share it out with some more people, and give it a rating, because that's how those engines decide what's important. Is your engagement
That's
and
how we scale the
participation.
podcast.
So please do that for us so we can share our messages, because we really like these conversations and we hope you do too. So I'm going to give
Absolutely.
people kisses. You want to help me give kisses? I give people kisses on my show.
How do you give them kisses?
I give I give
Oh,
them kisses.
my little daughter does this to me when
Yeah.
my baby daughter, when we're saying goodbye.
Oh, it's so sweet. Mwah. That's what saying goodbye. See you guys next week on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.